All right, this is a continuation of our 2025 Western States 100 post-race coverage, joined by friends, great friends, and colleagues, Brett Hornig, Mike McMonagle, Lee Yingling, and yet again, we have a special guest, another great friend, and I'm almost getting emotional saying this, but we're here joined by 2025 Western States 100 champion, Caleb Olson. Caleb,
glad to be here.
How's it going?
It's going decent. Things hurt a little bit, but I'm happy to be here.
Do things hurt more or less than last year?
Definitely more. Last year, it was like, I think after your first time doing any new distance, it kind of hurts a lot, but it's like muscular things. And this time it's like all these weird things that I think I just got from like being in some dehydration state or something like that. Like a really sore jaw, like I can't open my mouth very far. And like, I don't know, there's just all the like stomach cramps, like all these kind of non-muscular things, but then the muscular things are also still there. It's just all these additional things.
Lucy said your face was gray, or your skin was gray last night in the med tent.
I had like a good grayish green thing going for a few hours, I think.
And your feet look photoshopped right now.
Things aren't great.
It looks like you're wearing slippers of like human feet over normal feet.
Do you think it's gonna? Well, wait. Here's a question.
Are we just roasting Caleb?
Yeah.
Do you think it's gonna take a while for you to appreciate this because things just like suck right now physically, or are you already pretty stoked and it's kind of seeping in how amazing this performance was?
Some of both. I think once things don't, like yesterday they were like trying to do finish line interviews and stuff, and all I could think about was like survival. Like I could feel everything shutting down and I just needed to go lay down on a flat surface and like start hydrating. And today I'm starting to come out of that a little bit, but I also have still been feeling really nauseous and like I'm not good to go yet. So I think once I can enjoy life a little more, then this will sink in better.
I think this is probably the most wrecked I've ever seen you from a race before. Does it feel like this is the most wrecked you've ever been from a race before?
The only others that could contend with this were after Worlds, I was pretty wrecked, but I came back pretty quick after that one, like because I hadn't actually run very many steps of that course. I ended up just walking so much of it. But then also my first ever ultra, I ended up with rhabdo and was in the hospital for a few days. So I was probably more wrecked after that one.
What about 21 CCC?
That one I was super muscularly sore and I kind of had the chills, but I was better after like a day or two.
Okay.
If we rewind the clock a little bit, last year was your debut 100-mile at Western States. Yeah, you then had 12 months to prepare for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Was training pretty different, but it was like physically and mentally leading up to this?
Yeah, I think one of the big differences was going into last year, I was taking my best guess at like what would prep me for Western States, but also like balancing that with what do I sort of enjoy, given that Western States training is inherently kind of not the stuff that I love the most. Like it's a lot more flatter, faster running kind of in the heat of the day that I don't think is quite as much fun as going up into cool places that are up higher. But I think that having a coach this year has made a big difference. It's made it so that I have like a structured plan to follow. I don't really like wake up and see what I feel like doing. I already know what I'm going to be doing days and weeks ahead of time. So I think that can be a little like mentally exhausting to have kind of this whole plan set out in front of you that you have to check off every single day. But I do think that it worked for getting me fit.
You were one of many people that I think before the race I very much believed could win, but one of many, like, and I'm sure you agree, like,
yeah,
there were 5 to 10 probably guys on that starting line who had a very reasonable expectation of being able to maybe win
for sure.
But everybody also probably has like sort of a question mark that comes with that. And for you, I think my question mark was actually that this might be the first race that you've ever run that you didn't really enjoy the training for. Especially compared to, because I actually remember saying the opposite about like on our episode probably pre-race preview last year for Western States.
Yeah.
I think I remember us talking about like how you might be the kind of mentally the freshest on the start line last year because you were just having so much fun training. And that was a pretty stark contrast this year. I thought like
kind of getting here more burned out sort of.
Yeah. Wondering if having less fun training this year might have a negative impact. How do you think about that? Or
I think it's like a delicate balance. Like I think you need to enjoy training, and like the reason probably we all run is that we like to run, and like that comes first. So if you're just doing something that you're dreading every single day, then you're not going to do well because you're going to get to a starting line burned out. So I think like that's something I'm aware of and something that's balanced and factored into training. And like I have a good line of communication with my coach, and we'll check in frequently and adjust things if I'm feeling like things are getting to be too much. I also think that having it structured in a way where it's more like time on feet based can help, because I'll often get like a 4-hour long run on Saturday, do whatever you want. And I can fit something fun into that 4-hour long run. And I don't feel bad throwing something fun in there every once in a while, even if it's not the most Western States specific. I think that helps keep me a little fresher. But I do think I got in a little bit kind of burned out and like ready to switch up the training, and just figured as soon as I'm done with this, I can transition over into mountain training and have something to look forward to.
Is it a type of block of training that you would want to replicate again for any race?
If I was doing Western again next year, or like maybe a javelina or something that is similarly hot and runnable, I think it worked decently well. So I would replicate it again, but I don't want to do anything like that anytime soon again. So it's not anything that I have plans for.
Something that you've done, I think 2 weeks out from Western States last 2 years, is Lone Peak, which is a 11,000 plus foot summit in Utah. That's right out your back door. Is that something you would advise most people competing in Western States to do 2 weeks out from Western States?
Oh yeah, that's a classic. I've said I've never done Lone Peak 2 weeks before Western States and not broken 15 hours at Western States. So I think there's something to it. It's good high country practice, and it's a nice little like kind of cleanse of, all right, the work is done. It's time to start relaxing and having fun.
What made you choose Jack Kenzel as a coach? Like, what do you think he brings to the table?
He's a really obsessive dude who gets like really into the details of whatever project he's working on, whether that's his own project or coaching. He's really good at just like optimizing, and he doesn't do anything very crazy. It's all just like gentle progressions. It's things that are challenging, but then the next week you just do a little bit more. And like after weeks and weeks stacked up of a little bit more each week, you've got a really strong base, and you just kind of get fit without even noticing it.
Something that you talk about with Jack is like he gets in the weeds. He's pretty like scientific with his approach and knowledgeable about training theory. Looking at Western States, looking at the entrance lists on the men's side this year, you were not the fastest person on the start line, no offense. And then in the last 15 miles, you had Chris Myers chasing you down, who I would consider having probably some faster flat leg speed than you. Yeah. How do you negotiate speed in your training whenever you're lining up against a lot of people who on paper may have faster road PRs, track PRs, things like that?
I think you have to do enough of it that you have some speed, but like top end speed, like if I can run for something mile, like you're never actually doing that during Western States. I think that some people get really focused on like these super fast PRs that people have from road or track. And there's a lot that goes into a given ultra. There are a lot of variables. And I think that whether you really focus on like top end speed or just kind of general durability, you can get by in most ultras. Like the Western States average pace for what I ran is still like 8:30 or something like that. Like, yeah, there's some faster miles in there, but overall, in general, you don't need to be able to run super fast. You need to be durable. You need to be heat trained. You need to do hydration and nutrition right. and it's all these other factors that come together, and that makes it so that if you get to the end and somebody with faster leg speed than you is kind of trying to close in, like that could be threatening. But also I know we're all dehydrated and there's so many other factors playing in that I don't necessarily have to panic about that.
Was there any single element of your training where, like from last year to this year, you're like, if I can really focus on this one particular thing, it will shave a lot of time off the course?
There were two things. One was stoppage time. I did 2 shoe changes last year, and I was pretty confident I could get that down to 0 to maybe 1 shoe change. But that's still just like a few minutes. And I ended up I was doing pretty well on stoppage time until like the last 20 miles. And then I ended up having some issues that caused me to stop a few times. So didn't end up cutting off a ton of time there. I think the biggest thing was just more intentional training and like getting fitter and realizing that if I ran different strategically, I could go out harder, shave off more time at the beginning, and like not have. I think last year I paced really conservatively for the first half, and I think I left a lot of time on the table in the first half. So capitalizing on that, going out harder, I think set me up better to be able to finish faster.
What do you think are your superpowers? Like what makes you, set up to run this race so well?
Invisibility.
You got an invisibility cloak?
I do not, unfortunately. I don't know, because I don't really think that like if I think about what race is going to define me as a runner, like I would never pick Western States as like, oh, I want to be really good at that race, because I'd rather be good at like a UTMB or like a cool, Hard Rock or something like that. And I think you can be good at multiple things. You can be good at that too. But I do think like if you're good at ultras, you're probably just all around good at ultras. And I think a lot of that for me is like focusing on doing what I can in terms of getting fit, but then also looking at all the other factors and doing a lot of planning, getting into the weeds on the logistics and the crewing, and just trying to like optimize every other little thing that you possibly can. And then I also think that I'm pretty tough mentally and I can push through a decent amount of pain, and that helps.
Did you find yourself like leaning into areas on the course yesterday that are your strength? I would probably like look at you as a runner and say the high country is somewhere where you probably excel relative to your competitors. Did you use any of those early sections to your advantage to gap anyone or try to make some moves?
Yeah, we had a nice pack coming up over the escarpment, and then you get into like the true high country, and it's definitely like kind of overgrown. There's like streams flowing down the trail. It's much more technical than most of the course, and I have a lot of fun on that sort of terrain, and I was in a good mood, feeling good. The views are nice, temperatures are cool, and I was like maybe in 3rd or 4th, like kind of just behind the front of the pack. And I definitely at one point made a conscious decision. I think about 6 miles in, I was like, it would be really cool, no matter how today ends up, to just say like for however brief of a moment, I was winning Western States. So there were, I think, 2 people ahead of me, and I just popped around them and hopped in front and led that part because I was feeling good, and figured I may as well take advantage of it. And I led that through the Lion Ridge aid station. So I was like, boom, 5 miles of winning Western States. That's pretty cool.
Did you give up the lead ever?
At most of the aid stations, I feel like other people got out faster than me. So like at Lion Ridge, people passed. However we came in, we left in a different order, and I usually wasn't first, but I was usually with the front pack.
I think escarpment. You were like 4th or 5th up there, so you were probably never further back. You were probably in the top 5 the entire race. Does that sound
probably accurate? There might have been one that we hit like with everybody right at the same time, but yeah, probably about top 5.
Was there? I think maybe Robinson Flat. You might have come in 3rd or left 3rd, and
I think I left 3rd behind.
Was there a particular blow by that you delivered on the course to anybody that stands out to you, or was it mostly aid station blow bys?
It was not a lot of great blow bys. It was mostly just casual ones.
Is there a casual blow by that you can tell us about?
I don't know. Like the most memorable blow by wasn't even good. It was just like Chris stepping off to the side of the trail to pee for a second, and then he was gone.
So that's a casual blow by.
Yeah, that's a casual one. But no, there was no epic moment of like, all right, here's a big surge to like put a gap on somebody. There was nothing really like that.
I got hit with a major, embarrassing Boulder Boy blow by on the bike path in Olympic Valley the other day.
I think I saw a video.
Yeah, I was running and one morning, a couple days before Western States, and Seth Ruling just came screaming by, probably just at his normal shakeout pace. But
did you recognize him?
Yeah. But he was ahead of you at some point, or maybe multiple times during the race. When did that pass occur? Do you remember?
I was running with him and Hans Troyer for a little bit, and Chris, but the four of us were just kind of grouped up. It was actually fun. We squashed some Salt Lake Boulder beef.
Nice.
Turns out we're all friends.
Oh, good. Glad you could do that for us.
We're cutting this.
Lame.
I blamed it on you guys. I was like, just so you know, they're the ones picking the fight. We're chill.
I'm innocent.
Yeah. But I think, actually I do remember we came out of, I always get these two mixed up. Is it Duncan or Dusty that's the second one on that side?
Dusty.
Dusty is after Robinson Flat.
We came out of Dusty Corners, and I had just like taken a bunch of, I had tried to finish off all my fluids and my gels right before I got into Dusty Corners. So I had really just like filled up my stomach, refilled all my stuff at the aid station, got out right behind Seth, and we made it maybe like a mile before I started puking right behind him. And so he's just like sitting there running, listening to me like dry heave and like listening to the splashes and stuff. And I'm like, sorry, man. And I kind of took a minute after that to regroup. But then weirdly, my stomach ended up being totally fine after that. Came back around real quick. And I think I went ahead of him there because Chris had started to pull in front. And I said, like, I want to keep Chris within sight. So I'm going to pop around you.
Coming into the race, you probably were pretty aware of the list of competitors in the men's field. Was there anybody that you looked at on the start list that you were comparing yourself to and considered yourself a similar runner to, that you were queuing off during the day or wanted to be kind of close to as the race progressed?
Probably Killian.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I would do too.
Were you surprised that he was back? Were you surprised that he was back for so much of the day?
I was. I thought he was going to take off earlier. But in reality, I thought maybe like Jeff McGavero. I don't know that. I don't know him enough to know how similar we are. I just like his vibes and like running with him. So him and Rod, I would say we had a good thing going for a long time where I was just kind of in a train right behind those guys and thought that maybe that pack would stick together for longer and that we could all just work together.
Was there ever a time on the course when you were around people when you felt like people were making any like stupid moves that you're like, oh, that's kind of dumb. I'm going to stay here, do my own thing and see how this plays out?
I was far enough in front that there weren't that many people making moves that I wasn't with. So I don't know. I thought when I was grouped up with Seth and Hans that was a bold move for never having run Western States or maybe even 100. Had either of them run a 100-mile race before?
Debuts for both of them.
Yeah. I mean, I remember thinking good for them. They could both potentially pull this off, but like, this is a fast pace for doing this for your first time. And at least I know what's coming. So I don't know. I don't think that was stupid and they still both did great, but I wasn't too concerned about that because I figured I had the experience advantage on that one.
It was kind of interesting kind of seeing there was a group of 18 men basically going up and over the top of the escarpment.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit surprised that even by like Robinson Flat, like, yeah, it was still, maybe there was like a dozen within 60 seconds, but it wasn't like a pack that you were running 4 or 5 wide anymore. Did that surprise you at all, or did you expect it to start stringing out that early?
You're saying how consolidated it was?
Yeah, like, did you think that people were going to be hanging like at the very, very front longer?
Yeah, I think so. I think kind of the 3 or 4 of us broke away faster than I thought. I expected to have like Adam, David, Jeff, and Rod with us for longer, I think. And Killian and Vincent. I could actually, now that I'm thinking through these names, there's actually a ton of people who I expected to be right there. And then like everybody's just so good. And I feel like without one clear, like a gym in there, everybody's kind of similar. So I think I expected all of us to be together for longer. Yeah.
I guess this might be a question for you guys. Do you think maybe that the pace and the splits that Caleb was hitting, like the others in there kind of wrote that off as like, no, that's too fast, he'll come back?
My first reaction is I would have thought that they would thought that was too slow.
So
I really was. No, I was expecting people to budget about 10 minutes under course record pace.
So I mean, I don't.
That's what that was.
Hopefully, it's
Was it 1350 pace?
13:59.
course record.
Okay.
Course record's
No, not 1359. I'm sorry. I meant like 10 minutes under 14. I thought that people would be targeting.
Caleb was 9 to 10 minutes up on 13:59 pace for the first like 60 miles of the race.
Yes.
So
I agree with that.
it's very fast.
I agree with that.
But
Yeah.
it's a great point because there were 16 guys running that pace early on. And I think what was interesting is, I mean, there's not going to be 16 guys that nail it. And I would say none of the guys nailed that pace, but I would say 3 stuck within range of it. Yeah, I guess this was never my talking point. Here you go.
I do have a question. Hopefully, that's okay to share that. Like you shared splits with me for 13:59.
Yeah.
Which you share with your crew and obviously and with me to help plan, kind of where to be and when. And I think by the way that you described that before the race as like to me and to your crew as like, this is a very best case, I'm not sure possible scenario, but that might be what it takes to win kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer this publicly if you don't want to, of course, but like, how did you calculate those 13:59 splits? Was it an even pace? Was it based on Jim's splits, what he ran when he did 14:09? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I didn't look at Jim's splits at all. I looked at my splits from last year and thought about where I was feeling good, where I felt like I was being really conservative, and where I was feeling bad, and just kind of adjusted. Like, basically looked at 13:59 versus 14:40. It's a 4.7% difference. Like, you would need to run 4.7% faster to run a 13:59, and I was like, that's kind of a lot, but also we're talking about like hours here. Like, that's not that insane. And I feel like I might be 5% fitter than last year. So and then I guess temperature also factors in, but I think I mostly just went through, like, Western States has a cool archive of all the historical splits, and you can see exactly what you did between each aid station. I went through and I knocked a minute or two off any that I thought I could, and then figured I could knock 5 minutes off crew stations, and all of that added up to about 40 minutes, and that would get me to 13:59.
And then how did it actually play out, compared to those splits in the end?
For a while, it played out really well. Like Leo was saying, I was ahead of those splits for, I think, longer than 60 miles. I think, like, even at Green Gate when I rolled in there, I think I got there 7 minutes ahead of my 13:59 split for Green Gate, because I ran Green Gate to the finish really well last year. It was one of my strongest sections, and I thought, like, I probably can't improve much on that, but maybe I can just do the same thing again. And if I could have done the same thing again, I would have been very close to the 13:59. I would have for sure gotten a course record, but I had taken a lot of damage from everything I had already done and kind of paid the price on that and slowed down a lot.
You said you paid the price a bit for everything that had happened up to that point in the day. What do you think led to, like, any of the slowdown in your later miles? I think on a hot day like yesterday, it could be like topical cooling, nutrition, pace. Do you think it was one of those specific things, or just a combination of, like, you pushing your body to its absolute max?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of, like, just pushing really hard, going out hard, and I think I could have done better with nutrition. It's so tricky because you need to, like, be staying more hydrated. Like, I peed, I saw it was dark brown, and I was like, I'm dehydrated, I need to fix this. But also, you're nauseous, and, like, you try and take in more liquid, and sometimes it comes back up, sometimes you just don't have an appetite for it. So it's a problem, but it's really hard to actually fix. And it's also just hard when you're running that fast and it's that hot to take in enough. So I don't know, I guess more practice with running in hot conditions, taking in those kind of I think liquid is probably the bigger issue more than like fueling. It's more hydration. So practicing hydration in tough conditions maybe could have helped.
You had a good nutrition team out there with you. The precision hydration team comes out in full force and decked out in definitely some of the coolest clothes we see on course. How did their help like shape your day? How much did they contribute to nutrition planning? And then also, what was like your final target for nutrition? And like, did you actually hit what you intended to do? And I know that they'll probably do some calculations for you as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll write up like a case study. I have a like dedicated precision guy from the team. His name's Minty, and he was helping crew all day. It's really nice to be able to basically every time I come into an aid station and empty out all my pockets, he knows what I took from previous aid stations and previous crew spots. And so he can like, he'll bring a scale, and they try and be as precise as they can for the case study that they write up, but he'll weigh like how much liquid was left in each bottle, how much gel did I not take out of because I have like resealable gels. And so they're pretty thorough with that, and he can see if I'm not taking in enough electrolytes, for example, and like make adjustments to that on the fly. He'll also do things like if I return a bunch of unopened gels and like maybe one of them's a caffeine gel that he knew I was planning on taking, then he'll encourage me to take caffeine at the next one. So just things like that, like being really attentive to what's going in, how I'm looking, and then seeing if anything needs to change.
I've got a couple questions. Again, going back to those goal splits, if you think about the last 20 to 25 miles of the race, do you think that the competitive context was ideal for you to keep chasing that number? Or do you wish you, for example, had someone in front of you, someone right there with you? Like, how was that environment in the context of being motivated still to go for a particular time?
I went back and forth a lot. Like, it's funny how quickly you can be winning Western States in the lead, and then it gets really hard and it hurts, and you're like, do I actually even care about this at all? Like, I walked a few steps. I had some stomach issues. I was trying to figure those out. I walked for a little bit, maybe only like 10 seconds, but it felt so good to walk. And I was like, oh, I could get used to this. Like, and Jacob, my pacer, was with me, and he's like, I saw like this look of concern go over him when he's like, oh no, are we just walking this in from now on? And so he like, it is an advantage to have pacers for sure. I think with the mindset I was in, he kind of got me through that and like kept me motivated since I didn't have competition right there next to me. I knew they were closing on me, but I think having someone actually with me to tell me like, dude, we got it. Like, you've come too far to give this up now. We got to keep pushing. That helped me not just fully walk it in from there.
And then, go ahead.
Was it when you were hitting, kind of going back to the 14-hour original splits, if you had the splits, relatively memorized throughout the sections of the course and you hit them and you were faster than this,
Mm-hmm.
how like mentally, like how was it to be at like Robinson Flat or, Last Chance and be under your best case scenario split? Does that freak you out, or were you just like rolling with it?
I wasn't concerned with being under them. I was like, oh, cool. I got some buffer for later when this gets really hard, but right now I feel good. So now I've got more time to bleed. And I ended up needing that, but I don't regret going under it farther at the beginning than I was planning to. I think I needed those minutes later when it was hotter and I was starting to crash. So it was kind of nice to have a little bit of a buffer built up.
And then do you think having the experience of Western States last year, was that sufficient to do what you needed to do this year? Or was that Trans-Gran Canaria result where you sort of practiced front running as well? Do you think did you need to have that TGC to have this Western?
I think so. I think the 5th place last year was nice. That was like a great race that showed me like I could be decent at this sort of course and the 100-mile distance. And then I think I still needed kind of a confidence boost of like, I actually can put myself in the front of these races and can hang on. And Trans-Gran Canaria did that for me and was, like you said, an opportunity to do some leading, which I have very little experience with historically. So I think that without that, I probably would have played it much more conservatively, sat back with maybe sat right on Chris. Maybe it still turns out the same way and I just have to try and kick with him or something. But I think the way that I ran was shaped by having had success there.
Most professional athletes have some point in their training where they do some visualization of the course, of their performance, of their ideal race day. So there was likely a point in your training where you visualized crossing the finish line in first place. Who was in second and third place, if you had any of those thoughts during training?
I don't know if I ever visualized myself crossing in first place. I think I kind of thought my ceiling was like, it'd be really cool to land on the podium somewhere.
So that morning you were thinking podium would be great.
I was thinking podium would be great. I thought like maybe there is a world where I could potentially win this, but like hadn't really fully believed it. And like I do fantasy free trail. I put myself second behind Killian because I was like, how can you not? You got to respect Killian. And I figured like that's just kind of like set in stone. Like, I don't know. There's not much of a chance against somebody like that. Yeah.
You were throwing up race morning, right? At like 4 a.m. Didn't you say you had some?
You threw up on race morning?
I had such a hard time eating my breakfast that morning. I had like a banana. I made this whole big bowl of oatmeal and had like one bite and then got nauseous. And then I don't know why, but brushing my teeth sometimes sets me off. So I was like brushing my teeth and I think I like hit a little far back on my mouth or something and started like gagging. And then next thing I know, there's little chunks of banana in the sink. And I was like, oh no. And then I had this big wave of nausea at the start line. I was definitely nervous.
First time you've been nervous at a race like this? Because you strike me as a pretty logical person.
I think I'm a pretty logical person, but I also think I get nervous pretty frequently before big races.
Did you have to brush your teeth again then?
Oh, I wasn't risking it.
Okay, so you just went.
Same thing actually happened last night too. Post race, I was brushing my teeth and I set myself off again.
You gotta chill.
That one wasn't nerves related, but yeah, I guess
You're nervous for this interview.
I gotta change the way I'm brushing my teeth, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Like, how many other people have you just watched their teeth brushing technique? Like, what you might be doing it all wrong.
I know. It's been years since somebody showed me how to do it.
Yeah, that's all I have for that topic.
I think everybody on the couch but you probably had you winning Western States on our fantasy free trail, and it was also
Did you guys all pick Caleb?
Yes, did you?
Yes, we did.
Yes, I did pick Caleb.
Please.
Got proof. Yeah.
We said it on we had to follow through. We said it on the pod.
I had Killian second.
I had Killian DNFing. I just needed to take a risky move for my performance, and it was not that great. But I think I did beat all of you, so it must have been
actually
decent.
looked at the result.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did.
Yeah. But I will say we had the utmost confidence in you to pull off the win. But we did get some flack about our pre-race episode.
Yeah.
You said your name too many times.
I think we said your name.
Jeff Cole said Caleb Olson, Caleb Olson, Caleb Olson, Caleb Olson like 8 times.
Oh, so you watched it?
I did. We were driving out and I listened to it, but yeah, Morgan put it on while we were driving out.
Blame it on Morgan.
I regretted it because I was like, oh no, they just said my name way too many times.
We contributed to the morning banana puke.
Yeah.
We made him forget how to brush his teeth.
Well, I was nervous. I was in my head all week because I really wanted to have you in studio, but then I was thinking, like, would we just be like adding to the stress? Would we be causing chaos? Like, I didn't want to I thought you could win, and I didn't want to mess.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep the narrative of like under the radar.
Dude, during that men's preview episode, like, it was, I think it was basically at the very end. Like, we mentioned Caleb about the same amount as we mentioned a lot of the other favorites throughout the conversation. But it was like, for some reason at the very end, it just like went off on this like Caleb Olson, it became like an episode of Caleb Olson and his potential to win Western States. And I was trying to be really quiet because I was just kind of sitting there squirming like, he might listen to this. Like, I really want him to win. I don't know if he's going to, but I would love that. But I don't really want to talk about him too much.
Well, I think a lot of it was Jeff put a lot of respect on your TGC win. From a level of execution, would you rate TGC versus this Western States win like one higher than the other?
I felt better during and after. They both hurt really bad, but for some reason, I kind of feel like maybe it was just because it like leaves a bad taste in your mouth at the end of a race to feel like you're crashing so hard. But and versus like TGC, I felt so strong throughout most of it, and I felt like I closed really well. And that ending on like a high note and feeling good at the finish, even though it still hurts, is a lot more satisfying than getting to the finish just absolutely on empty, like completely depleted, and you have been for 20 miles and you've been thinking about walking it in. So for that reason, I guess, I feel like TGC kind of felt better, but I mean, this one is probably a cooler one.
I think it's pretty wild. I think you're really good at living up to expectations. Like, I feel like anyone on this couch at some point in time has said, I think you can do this. And you're like, all right, I'll go do it. And you kind of just like deliver.
You guys totally do that to me. Like since the beginning, all of you guys have just been like putting little things in my mind that like, and actually like, I think that's a big reason why I've had success in the sport is like, I've got these little voices in my head who I trust and who know the sport really well saying like, you could run this time at this thing, or, you could qualify for the world's team or do whatever. And they're just things that I like never would have even considered or wanted. And then you put the ideas in my head and make me believe them. And I'm like, okay, I'll go do that.
Yeah, but dude, we tell you like, yeah, you can run 15 something at Western States, and then in your first 100, and then you go out there and you run 14:40. Like,
yeah, but I made my splits for 15.
Right. Like, so, I mean, maybe your circle helps give you confidence and set some expectations, but you're also really good at exceeding them.
Well,
that's becoming a trend.
And also, like, again, just looking at this couch, Leah, extremely consistent racer. Brett, extremely consistent racer.
Mike, extremely consistent photographer.
Extremely consistent photographer.
I'm between Leah.
Mike, great mountain 100 miler. Mike is a great mountain 100 miler. Mike loves this. No one loves the sport more than Mike. Mike has the most love for the sport on this.
It's a nice compliment sandwich.
Mike has the most love for the sport on this.
Nobody talks about the sport as much as Finn.
Yeah. I also appreciate you saying I'm a consistent racer, but like not consistently good or bad or average. I'm just like a pretty consistently average racer.
And Finn runs his mouth better than he runs.
Yeah, and I run my mouth. I run my mouth. But where I'm going with the question is, I just, again, like, it's few and far between that you have a bad race. And there was like, it was kind of concentrated in that one stretch where it was like Tushers and Worlds, and that was kind of it. Are you at this point where you feel like the sport is largely in your control and like you kind of know the formula for how to perform? Or do you actually, like yesterday, do you feel like you were like risking everything and at any moment it could have fallen apart?
I think those are kind of two. Well, yeah, I do think anything could have happened yesterday. And like, I kind of mentioned this, but like, I was very tempted to just kind of give up. And I could easily imagine a world where I could have fallen back to 5th place in those last 20 miles. I think that, I don't know, I feel like I have some sort of formula figured out for like what works for getting me ready for these races and how hard I can push during them. But I think every time you line up, it's still a risk and anything could happen. And you never really know exactly how the day's going to shake out.
Yeah, because if I was talking about you, like with these three, like in a recap, I would say like Caleb is one of the athletes in the sport, kind of like a Killian, kind of like, yeah, like a modern gym where it's like very high floor. Like either doing extremely well, but if you have a quote unquote off day, like the floor is still really high. You're at that point. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like that. Like I feel like very confident that I could walk into most big races and get like a top 10 and like on a kind of off day.
I forgot the question that I was going to ask. It was definitely about Western State.
Okay. I believe you.
Yeah.
We can talk about your consistency if you want, Brett.
No, this isn't about me.
Let's bring Morgan in. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had quite the crew out there yesterday. Your entire family, your wife Morgan's parents as well on baby duty with your newborn 7-week-old Marshall. Yeah, Marshall. And then a good crew of the precision guys. Can you talk about the different energy that you received from your crew over the course? One of those was crew A and crew B, and kind of the prep and control that goes into making that like execution happen. I think something that I saw that was extremely impressive this year were your crew exchanges were, I mean, it was never more than 1 minute. Often it was like 30 seconds, and it was rapid fire and was extremely impressive. And I know that is no easy feat, and I know that there's a lot that goes into that. So can you discuss a little bit about that?
There you go.
You want to hear from me or from Caleb?
Let's hear from both.
Caleb.
I've got my own mic.
You go first.
Okay. That was a point that we like identified as I think we can do better on this year. We can be a little more dialed, and we saw what people were doing last year and how quick in and out of aid stations they were. And I think this year, we definitely had the intention of like keeping everything under a minute, closer to 30 seconds if we could. We knew what the like essential jobs were that had to be done, and Morgan was very good at divvying those up among the other crew members. She kind of oversaw everything and like took the lead, but then is very good at delegating jobs out to everybody else on the crew.
Yeah, I would say I love crewing, first of all. It is
You're good at it.
It is a true passion, and the only thing I love more than crewing is Caleb. So,
Not Martian.
oh, I love Marshall.
You're making
too.
Jules cry in the background.
Caleb's a very independent person, and I love to take care of him. Like, I'm a very, like, that's just my love language. I love to take care of people, and crewing him is kind of one of the only chances that I get to do that because he is so independent. I see all the work that he puts in, and I see him hitting the sauna late at night after he's put Marshall down. I see him doing the things that suck and it makes me want to be the best that I can for him on race day, and I want to help him get to that finish line. We're not going to do anything half-assed. We're going to go all in. And so I'm just, yeah, I take it very seriously to have the crew dialed. I think going through it last year was really helpful. I've gone through and watched a little bit of Leah's races a couple of years, and like watching her race has been helpful as well. And yeah, so I'm kind of the orchestrator, and then we just have amazing family that get down to business and want to get it done. So
Shout out to the Olson family, by the way, and Hewish family for like
They came out in force.
I mean, being up at the escarpment. A lot of them came out to Shummet shots for sunrise the day before, and then Leah and I were running up the escarpment on Saturday morning for Western States, and we see this big pack of people, and it's a bunch of the Olsons and everybody. Like, shout out to your guys' family support system. It's a really special thing.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think something that's unique about your family is I think a lot of us sitting here on the couch think about the thought of one of our parents crewing us at a race. And I think a few of us are shuddering at some of them like taking ownership over an entire aid station. Your parents and family members did that at this race. Like Morgan, you were crew A and you had a great team of crew A folks, but there was a crew B, and I think that was comprised largely of like Caleb's family, right?
Yeah.
I'll have a little note on that.
Yeah.
Caleb's mom is so dialed. She had all of the spreadsheets printed out. She had the splits memorized. I don't think Caleb knows this yet, but they did practice crew runs the night before.
Oh my gosh.
And so somebody pretended to be Caleb, and everybody
Who was Caleb?
I don't know, I wasn't there, I just heard. But somebody pretended to be, yeah, maybe it was Lance. Somebody pretended to be Caleb, and every single person had a job, and they would practice what order they did it in, who was doing what. And I think, like, when we do crew, like, we do have, like, specific tasks, and then we also try to keep the vibes pretty calm so that he can take a breath, and we can try to troubleshoot anything within 30 seconds. And even if Caleb mentions one little thing, we can cover it at the next aid station.
Morgan, can you talk a little bit about the Pointed Rocks aid station exchange? So Pointed Rocks is mile 94 of Western States. We had just learned at the Quarry Road aid station that Chris Myers, who was running in second place, had cut down the gap to Caleb from about 4 to 5 minutes to about 2.5 minutes. And we know that Chris is really strong on that last section. So I know when I saw that split, I was extremely nervous and not excited to see what kind of shape Caleb would be in at Pointed Rocks, fearful that he would have to have a 6-mile sprint to the finish and lose that first place spot. Can you talk about like the energy that you had to approach that aid station with? Because I think that had to be one of our most important ones of the day.
Yeah, it was scary because we knew he was hurting. We knew
Jacob had given us some.
Jacob had, yeah, we knew he was hurting. And so I would say the goal of that aid station was get him in and out and get him hyped up. So we got him caffeine. We troubleshooted all of the things that were hurting like as quickly as possible, like probably within 30 seconds, just to try to get him back out there and through that aid station into the finish as fast as possible. We also tried to keep things quiet and strategic. We knew Chris was closing in, and there's definitely things that you can do. So one of the things that we did is after Caleb left, our entire crew packed everything up within 20 seconds, and we were out of there before Chris came in.
Sprinted out of there. I think I was in a sprint off with like the entire Olson family, and I'm 33 weeks pregnant, like getting out of that aid station.
It's
It wouldn't be your
the ground too.
it wouldn't be your first race with the Olsen.
Not letting Chris's crew have any motivation to. They can't say that you're there.
Dude,
Yeah.
I went like I don't know, 50 to 100 meters max past the aid station to snap a couple more photos of Caleb and Jacob on the trail, and I came running back into the aid station. 'Cause I was rushing too. I knew it was like a boogie, and I think I like went like handed something like a camera or something to, not physically handed, but about to hand something to who I thought was this crew, the Olson crew. And then I realized, like, because there's a lot of like precision shirts stuff,
For sure.
and I was like, I spent a good 30 seconds just looking around for you guys. And then I'm like, I looked down the trail and I saw like, I think Lance and Anthony got like jogging away. I'm like, you guys really booked it out of there.
And it was so intentional because like you got to think, if you're hunting, we knew Chris was hunting. He wasn't trying to hold on to anything. He was hunting Caleb down, and it's got to be demoralizing to get into Pointed Rocks and see no trace of Caleb. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to make sure that he didn't see any trace of Caleb, and like we didn't want him to have any hope. So
But also, I love Chris.
we love Chris so much. Great guy. I loved the snorkel, but you know, when you're racing,
No friends on the start line.
yeah, you gotta play it like that. So
I mean, I think for people that are watching and listening, I'm sure many are thinking, okay, what Morgan is describing just demonstrates that this is truly a team sport, and there is a if you have a really good crew, that's a massive advantage. So kudos to you and the expertise that you've developed over the years. The question I have, you guys are new parents. Marshall's 7 or 8 weeks old. There are people that are, again, either new parents or about to be watching and listening. Any learnings, points of appreciation about how to make the ultra running lifestyle work in that context?
I don't know if I've got any. I've got points about how to make it work short term. Like, I know how to make it work for 2 months because that's how old Marshall is. But it is unsustainable what we've been doing, and which basically is just Morgan does everything all night and then sleeps kind of during the day, and I help with Marshall while Morgan naps. But it basically just means Morgan like has never had a good sleep since Marshall was born, and I don't think that can last forever. We did kind of a 2-month blitz on this just to make it to Western States, but I think we still have some figuring out to do of like, how is this going to look longer term?
I'll add a little bit to that, just about those decisions that we made. Because last year after Western States, Caleb was saying, I don't think I'll ever do that again. And so I wasn't really anticipating that when we had our baby, he would be running Western States 7-8 weeks later. And so when we were getting closer to my due date and we had this conversation of like, Morgan, I want to run Western States, we had to be super intentional with how we approached that, because our first idea was like, okay, yeah, you can try to run Western States and we can try to push through the training and the recovery and all the things that you have to do when we have a newborn. And that was kind of our first gut instinct, was like, yeah, let's try it, but like, who knows what will happen? We'll just see how training goes. And I think we kind of got to a realization that that doesn't work. Like, you can't half do training. And we learned that at CCC, because after Western States last year, Caleb was pretty roasted, and he went into CCC with the mindset of like, we'll just see how it goes. And we've learned that that doesn't work. And so this year for Western States, when Marshall was born, we had to shift, and we had to say, okay, if you're going to do Western States, we're going all in. And that means you're sleeping downstairs. You're not waking up in the middle of the night. I'll take the night shifts. We're going to have grandma come up and help me while you get your 2-a-day runs in and your sauna and your strength training. And so I think we definitely had to have that shift. And also selfishly, like, I didn't want any of the blame for if Western States didn't go well. I didn't want him to like not finish or not do as well because he wasn't sleeping at night. And so I was very highly motivated to make sure that he got in what he needed to.
You guys, Morgan just won Western States. Let's hear it for it.
Morgan won Western.
Thank you. It's for sure a family effort. So
No, I like that approach that you guys take, because I think I remember having a conversation with you that, like, if you're going to do Western States one more time, it's all in. You're going to make the most of the effort. If you're going to sacrifice as much sleep as you have in these like early weeks, it's got to be with purpose. And fortunately for both of you, that ended with the best result possible, with Caleb ending up in that first place position. Yeah, I guess, Caleb, would you run Western States next year?
I very much went into this with the perspective of run this like it's my last Western. So I don't feel any need to come back for now.
after the race, he said, "Don't let me do this again." So I might have to hold you to that.
It might not be too hard.
It was, something you said, Morgan, reminded me that, you went into this year not knowing whether you were going to do Western Red, and you were trying to make the World's team, or hoping to make the World's team.
Yeah.
You were thinking about running Gorge. Yeah, when did you make the decision actually to commit, and as a family commit to going all in on Western States this year?
When he published the Substack.
When you
Go follow Caleb's Substack with a chasing trail.
I think we decided to really go for it. Like after Transgran Canaria, I wanted to see how things felt on the recovery. Things felt fine. I recovered well, and I was ready to start ramping back up. And I think that like a little bit before Marshall was born, kind of after TGC and seeing how well that went, and seeing that maybe Western could also go pretty well, got me excited about it. And that's when we decided to. So probably like March is kind of when we said, let's do this right.
You were very close to a Jim Walmsley course record out there. I think you were a little over 2 minutes off of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've raced Jim outside of last year's Western States.
No.
Is there a race that you think your strengths in ultra and trail running would be optimal to have a really good day against Jim Walmsley, and one that you think you would have an advantage?
I think some of my favorite courses that maybe I haven't necessarily done all of these or done well on all of these, but I think like kind of between 100K and 100 mile, and like a little more technical, still some runnable sections, but like maybe a little hillier. Things like Cape Town 100K, TGC, maybe Lavaredo 120K. Those kind of courses I think are maybe my strong suit, and I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, but that's I think where I'd like to sort of specialize maybe, and I think something like that would probably be like my best chance against some of the best runners.
this was a funny hypothetical. I don't know if it came from you or Brett or Mike, but I'll repeat it here. I'm not taking credit for it. If someone gave you the results of Western States, but they could only tell
Charles.
It was Charles. It was Charles. Okay, Charles. Shout out Charles. If the only piece of information that you knew about this year's race heading in was that Chris Myers would run 14:17, how would that impact you? Like, what would you be thinking just based on that?
I don't know that anybody, maybe besides Chris, really saw him finishing as far up as he did. So I think I would assume that everybody had run very fast if I knew that. I think that would give me more confidence in the splits that I had made in going for a fast time. I think Chris is a really good runner, and obviously he's shown that he has what it takes to be at the very top of the sport. But just because he's still kind of coming up in the sport a little bit and maybe lesser known, I think if that was the one thing I knew about Western States, I would probably gear myself up for a pretty quick one.
Again, I've forgotten it.
Oh, I've got one for Morgan, actually.
Same.
Follow
You go
up.
first.
Because, okay, you're taught there's 4 ultra running families in the room right now. And I know with Jules and I, like, we're still looking for a lot of the answers. What do you suspect is like a good sustainable compromise for like raising a family in the context of, you know, you guys having this incredible rise in the sport and Caleb having a great pro career, stuff like that?
I don't think it's I think good question, Finn. I think what we've been doing hasn't been very sustainable, but I do think that Caleb and I always try to support each other in what we do. So I think that that's maybe the way to have the most sustainable lifestyle is when there's something that I want to do, Caleb can take over and help out and pitch in. And when there's something that he really wants to do, I'll do the same for him. So just having that back and forth support, I think, is the best way to create something sustainable. And even though the past 2 months have maybe been a little bit skewed because of Western States, but that's me supporting him in this. And if there's something that I have my heart set on, I know he would do the same for me.
Yeah. Also, I got to believe that eventually it gets a little easier with the kid as they start sleeping better. So hopefully we'll see if I'm right or wrong about that. But
Get Jules in the background.
yeah,
We know Sloan doesn't sleep good.
but maybe there's hope somewhere down the tunnel.
Then they wanted to start hanging out with you and stuff.
That's true.
Morgan, what did you expect? How did you expect Western States to go this year?
I didn't want to jinx anything. I did not play Fantasy Free Trail. Of course, I knew that Caleb had the potential to have a really good day. I had a feeling something special was going to happen. I have seen his training where everybody else was kind of in the dark because he didn't post everything to Strava. I saw the things that he was doing outside of training on a daily basis, like getting a lot of sleep, doing the sauna, doing the strength, and also like saw a good mindset for him, even though sometimes he can be kind of hard to read. I had a feeling we were going to have a special day. I didn't know that would mean first, but yeah, it was a very special day.
I remembered my question.
Go. Yeah.
Caleb, what was the biggest motivator for you at this race?
I think I wanted to. Last year I finished and I was really happy with it, and I felt like I could still do better. And this year I wanted to feel like I put it all out there, had nothing more to give, and like could walk away satisfied forever and never come back. And I was pretty motivated to. I'm not saying I'll actually never do this again, but I'm. I am saying I won't do it next year, but
It's the 5 stages of Western States recovery.
Mike's very familiar with that.
But I think wanting to give it an effort that I could be satisfied with if I never ran again was motivating. there's a lot of aspects that are motivating in ultra running. Like, I think the competition and like going for a historical time, shooting for that course record, that sort of thing. But like when things got really hard, those all kind of went out the window a little bit. And I like didn't actually care that much about a course record, didn't actually care that much if I got passed even. It was more just like, what am I going to be happy with having this? If this is my last one, would I be happy with this? And I think also like trying to support a family as a ultra runner, you get more opportunities the better you do in big races. And I think knowing that success at this race could set me up well, like for a future career in ultra running, is also motivating.
So there's a financial motivation as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some of that at play.
Yeah, which is like somewhat new in
Yeah.
the sport for there to be like that much financial motivation where it could be significant.
Yeah. Talking about opportunities in the sport, it's really cool to see just our various avenues of how we've all been investing ourselves in the sport and the different ways that we were involved even in the sport yesterday, from Finn covering the race and all the pre-race, post-race shows, to Brett, you were runner cam without any topical cooling options with a terror deck on your back going down Cal Street, chasing Caleb and the
It's not
lead
easy.
pack down there. Morgan, you were crew chief. Mike, you had the privilege of being the main photographer for Caleb, for Nike and ACG, which brings me to ACG, which Nike invested a lot in their athletes who were showing up at Western States this year. Shea Aquilano, Riley Brady, Aaron Clark, and yourself. What does that partnership and the innovation and just the support from them looked like as they've kind of dove more into their rebrand of ACG?
It's been really cool. I had no idea really what ACG was before working with Nike and learning about it through them, but it stands for All Conditions Gear. And I think basically what I've seen as a change is it seems like they are very focused on basically getting athlete input and saying like, if you could design everything completely custom, exactly how you want it to set you up as best as possible for success at Western States, give us like a laundry list of what needs to happen for you to have a great day there.
And you said, I want a crochet shirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that where the shirt came from? That was your idea?
It's less coming up with solutions and it's more like, here are the challenges. Heat is a big issue. And then they are kind of offering some potential solutions. We do some testing with them. I wore that shirt for a long time in not many, but a single hot heat chamber treadmill kind of room on Nike campus, testing that out and making sure that everything was how I liked it. There's a lot of investment going on in, like you said, Western States athletes right now. And I think that is part of what got me excited to do Western States, was seeing like Nike really cares about this and wants to set me up for success with this and is putting all this energy into developing these things that I'm excited about trying to use in public for the first time ever. Like, that's kind of an iconic moment to have what I think is a real breakthrough in like topical cooling technology. That's something that's not an ice bandana. Like I think it will be a future staple of Western States performance to see more cooling shirts like that. And I was excited about using something like that.
If this is kind of a philosophical question, and if we had interviewed, for example, Dan Green or Rachel Entrikin after Cocodona, I would have asked the same thing. But, overnight, at the time of this recording, you've added 12,000 followers on Instagram, probably thousands on Substack, I would guess.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and you just won the biggest race in our sport in North America. You are undoubtedly a superstar. With the caveat that this is a niche sport, are you like, how do you think you'll handle the fame? Like, do you feel like,
Am I worried about the fame?
Like, what are your favorite?
just like
go to your favorite
the
restaurant.
pressures associated with being one of the elites now and having a target on your back and a lot of attention? Like, you're gonna have like, we're only just seeing the beginning, I think, of all this. I think we're less than 24 hours post race. Do you feel like you have a personality that's suited to like not really worry about the fame and the pressure and stuff like that? Or like, how are you thinking about this?
I think I have a personality that doesn't really care for it much. And like, I think if people want to follow me on Instagram, like, kind of their loss. Like, I hope there's something good on there for you.
That's the quote for like the picture carousel that we have. If you
Loss.
Yeah. I try to put a little bit better stuff out on my Substack, but my Instagram's often not super interesting. My Strava is, honestly, we'll see if I stay light or go dim again, but it's in either condition, it's like really not anything special. So you can follow me if you want, and you can say hi, and I like that, but I also think it doesn't really change anything.
You'll be unaffected. You think you'll be unaffected?
I think so. We'll see. Maybe it'll go to my head and I'll stop hanging out with you guys because I'm too cool.
I wouldn't really consider you much of a fashionista, I guess a fashionisto in in your day-to-day life. How did it feel, kind of debuting this cool new Nike shirt at Western States? And like, I think a lot of people who are involved in like fashion in running had a lot of eyes on it.
I don't know if I fully caught up on everything that has gone on online since this race and how the fashion community views it. But I do think if people were really tuned in,
Definitely viewed it.
didn't Drew race the Lavaredo 80K?
I think
thing?
and Tyler might have worn it at Lavaredo.
Okay.
It was great timing.
Yeah. So I don't know. People are seeing it. I'm excited to have finally made my splash in the fashion world.
Is that a
Fashion
race
splashing.
only kind of
Race only.
kind of shirt, or will you like bring it out for various training runs?
Uh,
Or backyard picnics.
Yeah, backyard barbecue session.
Christmas party.
Sweater.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. Like training, I had an unbranded version of that shirt that I did some training runs in, enough to like feel confident that that shirt worked well for me. The interesting thing about training with it is like often in those training runs, I kind of wanted to be hotter. So like wearing that shirt wasn't really the best option because
It works
wanted to-
very well.
it works too well to train in.
Wow.
But I also actually don't know. It's still like a pretty proprietary, unreleased thing that I think I need to check and see what I can use it for and when. I think I need to check in on some of the rules on that still.
I have to get one.
Well, I think. What do you guys think? I think you pulled it off. Like I thought he looked pretty great.
My favorite part was the open holes, like in the sleeves. Like there's like
Yeah.
a giant hole. Like,
Caleb's a good-looking guy, so maybe be blinded by that. But
Yeah, I've never seen Caleb wear a crop top a day in my life.
there's a long sleeve crop top.
Yeah, so that's new.
Yeah.
I will say, Javelina, when we went out and I think Caleb was going to pace Brett and I was crewing our good friend Christina, I did see Caleb in a crop top there, but that's the only other time.
Yeah, maybe that's my new thing.
I no.
saw the motion. Okay. I think winding this down. This isn't a question. I'm not in awe. I'm trying to like deeply appreciate this moment because I just think of like our friend group and what we've been through and how much we love the sport, and getting to see you work towards this. It's amazing. And I promise I'm not gonna cry on the podcast, but this is awesome. This is just emotional for me.
Getting watery, dude.
A little bit.
Getting a little glassy.
So someone take the mic. Someone ask a question. Someone ask a question.
Levy's about to break.
I'm not crying. My eyes are raining.
It's kind of crazy that like we were all friends before you started Singletrack, before you were taking photos for Nike, before Leah was running for Lulu, and before I was doing anything special. And Brett, of course.
Still racing average.
Yes. But it's pretty cool to see where this has come and to all be together now. Kind of a full circle moment.
I have a question that I feel like both of you could answer.
Yeah.
At what point yesterday, Morgan, were you like, oh my gosh, Caleb's going to win? Same for you, Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. I tried not to let myself think that until he crossed the finish line. I did have one small moment where his athlete manager had called me and asked approval to do a celebration post on the Nike Instagram page. She's like, I just want you to get your approval on the verbiage of this. Can we post this when he crosses the finish line? And that was kind of like, whoa, this is happening. It was kind of, I think this is the first time
that account has 300 million followers, by the way.
Oh my God.
So I think when she called and asked that, I maybe let myself think, okay, this could be real. But I tried to not get too excited until it actually happened.
For me, I think my first time thinking like, this seems like it could be a special day, like maybe I could win this, was when Chris and I were going up Devil's Thumb together at like, what is that, mile 40 something, 45?
48.
And it definitely did not feel like it was in the bag at all, but it was just like, we're in front of this thing right now, like there's a chance. And I didn't actually feel like I fully had it locked in until maybe leaving Roby Point after you guys' little crew tricks with the caffeine gel, basically just getting me back on my feet and feeling like I was kind of coming back around and could climb pretty decently. I think that's when I realized like things are looking good.
I've got two things, but I'll say my moment first. I was at Forest Hill watching you, and I told you this offline. But if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this. I gave like one of these to Caleb, like, rock on, have fun out there. And you just took it as your TGC celebration. So you went like this, phone call, and then hang up. And I was like, oh my God.
When was this?
This was at Forest Hill. This was 38 miles from the finish. And I was like, he's already doing that?
Yeah, I thought that's what he was doing. Like he does that.
He's just like,
shotgun,
oh my God.
and I kind of do it back for a second, and then I like discreetly. It wasn't a whole big aggressive.
It's pretty strong. It was like,
You slammed the shotgun.
cracking up.
and I was like, I had to stop in my tracks. I was like, oh my God.
I do want to hear everybody's moment.
Oh yeah. Go.
Yeah, I think my moment was, well, I thought you had it in the bag, and then Pointed Rocks scared the living daylights out of me, and Morgan and I looked at each other as we were leaving Pointed Rocks, and I think she said, I think he's going to do this. And I was like, I think so too. And then as we were sprinting away from Pointed Rocks in a hurry, we kept looking over the meadow up there and like looking for Chris coming through. And Anthony Costales is our like trusty, like he gets a task at an aid station that is like his thing to do, and his was to like monitor the time for like when Chris was coming through there. And I think he had said something along the lines of like, guys, I think it's 5 minutes. And in my mind, I know like how long that last section takes me to do. And then I'm kind of doing the math. I'm like, okay, 5 minutes is a good gap. Even if Caleb were to like see somebody behind him, he's going to surge. And this is a section that plays to his strengths. So I think once we saw that 5 minute gap there, I was like, oh my God, he's doing it.
The actually, so Robinson Flat was a really cool.
That far back for you?
That's not when I knew it was going to happen. But I was kind of fascinated by Robinson Flat because it felt identical to last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I think, Caleb, you came into Robinson Flat with Tyler. And do you remember what place you guys were in? I think like 12th or something. Like maybe just outside the top 10, 10 to 15.
Tyler and Chris. Because we had me, Tyler, and Chris were in a good pack for a long time.
So you came into Robinson Flat last year with Tyler in your first 100-miler at Western States, just outside the top 10, and you came in hot. Like it was hectic. You seemed a bit stressed. You seemed like in a rush to get in and out. And I remember being worried. Like I remember being like, "Oh, Caleb, this is his first 100. Like that seemed pretty high strung. Like this is a little stressful." And then I'm pretty sure by Michigan Bluff last year, you were probably into the top 10 at that point. So things had gone well since Robinson Flat, and now you were like still moving very efficiently, but kind of, I think I remember you cracking some jokes a little bit in Michigan Bluff, like a little bit lighter energy. And this year, I swear it was almost identical. Like Robinson Flat, I told Leah, because Leah was racing last year, so she didn't see the Robinson Flat exchange.
This year.
And so Leah saw Robinson Flat this year, same exact energy. Like it felt rushed, it felt stressful, it felt like, yeah, just really, really like want to get in and out, don't want to lose contact with the guys that you came in with. and it, like, seriously, it felt exactly identical. And I think, you know, other people on the crew, maybe Lucy, might have made a comment about sort of the same thing. Like, it felt a little stressful. And then, but as Leah and I were driving to Devil's Thumb and everywhere else, that kept telling her, like, yeah, that I actually feel really good now, because it was identical to Robinson last year, just a little faster. And last year went really, really well. And then following up on that, when we get to Michigan Bluff, I'm on the trail there right when you come up to the sign, like right when you come off the single track before like cruising into Michigan Bluff, and Caleb cracks a joke to me, and I'm like, this is copy and paste, just faster from last year. So I started to feel really, really good about like you, I think, probably knowing that you could win at that point. And then what really like put the nail in it was Pointed Rocks. Like when we saw that gap had gone from 5 minutes at ALT to like 2:50 at Quarry Road, but now back to 4.5 or 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah, for me it was my second runner cam.
I thought you were going to say that.
When I had the pleasure of being a fly on the wall, following you and Anthony out of Forest Hill. I was loosely supposed to follow you to Cal 2. I made it to Cal 1. But then from Cal 1 to Cal 2, I kind of jogged my way there. And then as other people from the field caught me, I would run for a few minutes with them and then let them drop me, their choice, not mine.
You're right.
So I got a really good feel for like pretty much the same section of course, the exact pace that everyone was running, and just like body language and how everyone was doing. I was like, oh, on this section of the course, for how casual, like you seemed to feel like you were talking to Anthony, just kind of giving him a recap of like how you were feeling, and you know, you're talking about like splits to the next aid station. I was just like, oh, nobody's catching you today. That's it. Like I know there's a lot more racing left, but just with where physically and mentally you seemed, I just didn't see a scenario where anyone caught you, because I don't know, I didn't think you were going to make it. Didn't seem like you were in a spot where you were going to make some sort of colossal mistake.
Although you also overheard me talking about how dehydrated I was and how dark my pee was.
Maybe, but everyone's dehydrated at that point.
All right, before we close, I want to say one last thing, and this is just more an open question I want to throw out there into the universe, and that is, what impact does your win have on sort of like the validity of Salt Lake City as a trail running hub? And we talked about this on the pod for years now, but like I love Salt Lake City. I love the people that are in it, and there is a lot of talent and a lot of cool trails and just like a community. And I just, people now know that you're the first person in this race's history to ever bring a cougar back to Utah, which is huge. And I just wonder, is that like adding gasoline to the fire, and do more people want to come and train there? Do they want to join the community? Does it make Salt Lake a hub even more? I don't know. Like that's just, I'm really curious to see like what comes out of this community wise from your win. So
I feel like Salt Lake's already, like, do we want it to be more of a hub? I feel like we're pretty good.
I agree. I like where we're at. I like our friend group.
Everybody's welcome, but I mean, I think it's been proven. It's a good spot to train. It's a fun place to be. There's great people.
Anyone else have anything before we go?
We're just so proud of you guys. Caleb,
super.
Marshall.
Yeah.
Really, really proud of you guys.
Go follow Caleb Olson 123 on Instagram.
1, 2, 3. Don't forget that part.
And Chasing Trail on Substack.
Love you guys.